The Odyssey ending explained the hidden meaning behind Odysseus leaving Ithaca. At first glance, Odysseus' decision doesn't make sense. He spent 20 years fighting to return home. 10 years at war in Troy, doubt another 10 years trying to reach Ithaca. He survived storms sent by Poseidon, escaped mythical monsters, outwitted the Cyclops, resisted the Sirens, lost every member of his crew, and sacrificed everything for one goal: to return home. That was the promise driving the entire story. Which is exactly why Christopher Nolan's ending is so shocking. After finally reclaiming Ithaca, Odysseus willingly walks away from everything he fought for. But when you look deeper, you realize that Nolan isn't telling a story about returning home. He's telling a story about whether someone can ever truly return after war. Throughout the film, Odysseus repeatedly asks himself one question: what kind of man comes home after causing so much destruction? That question slowly becomes more important than defeating monsters or surviving the sea. The Trojan horse changed Odysseus forever. One of Nolan's biggest additions is the emotional weight of the Trojan horse. In Homer's poem, it's celebrated as Odysseus' greatest achievement. In Nolan's version, it becomes his greatest burden. Every victory at Troy came at an unimaginable cost. Thousands of innocent people died. An entire civilization disappeared in a single night. Instead of celebrating his brilliance, Odysseus begins questioning whether history will remember him as a hero or as the man who destroyed a civilization. That guilt follows him across every island, every battle, every storm. Even when Poseidon disappears from the story, Odysseus still cannot escape the consequences of his own actions. His greatest enemy is no longer a god, it's his own conscience. Why Telemachus becomes king. One of the most emotional moments in the ending is Odysseus placing the future of Ithaca in Telemachus' hands. This isn't because Odysseus is weak. It's because he finally understands something that took 20 years to learn. A kingdom cannot heal if it's constantly reminded of war. Every time the people look at Odysseus, they'll remember Troy. They'll remember bloodshed. They'll remember the king who left and returned carrying the weight of thousands of deaths. Telemachus represents something different. Hope, a new beginning. A generation that can build instead of destroy. By stepping aside, Odysseus finally performs his most selfless act. He chooses the future of Ithaca over his own crown. Why Penelope leaves with Odysseus. Many viewers expected Penelope to remain queen. Instead, she chooses to sail beside Odysseus. That decision says everything about their relationship. Penelope waited 20 years. She defended Ithaca, protected Telemachus, defied more than 100 suitors. She could finally enjoy peace. Yet she chooses her husband instead of the throne. Nolan presents this as the completion of their love story. They began separated by war. They end united in peace. For the first time, neither of them is chasing power. Neither is trying to prove anything. They're simply two people searching for the quiet life that war stole from them decades earlier. The Sea People's twist explained. One of the most fascinating additions Christopher Nolan makes is the idea of the Sea Peoples. Throughout the movie, characters fear mysterious invaders responsible for destroying civilizations. But in the final act, Odysseus reaches a devastating realization. He and the Greek armies have become exactly what everyone feared. Their victories created the very destruction they blamed on others. In other words, the monsters weren't mythical creatures. The real monsters were human ambition, conquest, and endless war. This transforms the Odyssey from a mythological adventure into a powerful anti-war story. Christopher Nolan's biggest change from Homer. In Homer's original poem, Athena eventually restores peace to Ithaca. The gods intervene, order returns. The kingdom survives because divine forces stop the cycle of revenge. Christopher Nolan removes that safety net. Instead, humanity must solve its own problems. Odysseus realizes redemption cannot be handed down by the gods. It has to be earned through personal sacrifice. That's why he walks away, not because he failed, but because he finally understands what victory truly costs. The final scene explained. The last shot of Odysseus sailing toward the horizon is more than a beautiful ending. It represents freedom. For the first time since the Trojan War, he isn't sailing toward another battle. He isn't trying to defeat another monster. He isn't trying to outsmart another enemy. He's simply moving forward. The ocean that once symbolized punishment now becomes a symbol of peace. Christopher Nolan leaves us with one final message. Sometimes the greatest journey isn't finding your way home. It's finding a way to forgive yourself. That is why Odysseus leaves Ithaca again, not because he stopped loving his home, but because he finally understood that home isn't a place. It's the peace you've been searching for all along.